All right, we're here with Mr. Bryan Popejoy, joining us from his. You said your daughter's room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you get it done, man. Thanks for making time
Quietest
today.
place in the house.
Yeah. What city do you live in?
Harbor City.
Harbor City. How far away is it from your guys' academy?
About 7 or 8 miles, not too far.
So, obviously, quite a few people who are in Muay Thai. You've been around for forever.
Old.
And yeah, I feel it, man. I didn't have gray hairs before. I see you guys with gray hairs. Now I'm starting to get them. I'm like, oh, crap.
Yep.
It's coming. For those that may or may not know who you are, obviously, what's the name of your academy that you have, and how long have you been doing Muay Thai for?
Okay, so a gym name is Boxing Works. I've had that place since 1997, and I started Muay Thai around 91.
Yeah.
So, a couple of years.
Yeah, just a little bit. When you started Muay Thai in 1991, where was that at?
My hometown of Bloomington, Illinois.
Oh.
So about 2 hours south of Chicago.
And there was Muay Thai in Bloomington, Illinois back then, huh?
A little bit. My coach was, his name's Dave Rogers, super good guy. He's a JKD concepts guy. So training was we did a Muay Thai section, and we did going to doing Jun Fan stuff and swinging the Kali sticks and whatnot. So we had these different segments, but I really gravitated towards the Thai boxing things.
Okay. So when you say obviously more than just gravitated towards it, because now you're doing it full time. That's taking it lightly. For at that time, for those now, it's funny. You have these younger people. I saw this kind of transition with all this online information stuff like that too. Back then it was Black Belt magazine stuff like that you guys would get information, or how would you, and obviously VHS tapes that would have Thai boxing on it, or
yeah, that was the only sources, magazines, which were helpful, but obviously still live photographs and stuff, you couldn't get the real
deal
idea of how things were supposed to look. And then you'd have a 6th generation VHS tape. It was all grainy and stuff. You could kind of squint and make out fights, So that was it. So for the longest time, it was again, one videotape that we had some fights on it. That was our frame of reference for how things are really supposed to look.
Mm-hmm.
But then I found a ad in classified ad section of a boxing magazine, where a guy was, selling videotapes in addition to boxing. He said, kickboxing and Muay Thai and all this stuff. So got in contact with him, started sending him money, and started getting videotapes around 92, 93. And then that was the start of collecting videotapes and fights and such. And it was just helpful for, like I said, now everybody takes it for granted. You can open up your telephone and look at the highest level quality of athletes, of how things are supposed to look. Back then, it was a little bit of a hunt to make it happen. Yeah,
for sure. There's I can only imagine how that was. I've talked to a couple people that are from the generation right before you too, that were in that transition, and seeing that continue to evolve. Like you said, a lot of people take these things for granted, for the amount of information you can get on there too.
Oh yeah.
And kind of going into the fight videotapes, you're still a pretty avid collector of finding fights, right?
I'm not searching as much as I used to. But yeah, I haven't put anything up in a while. It's been COVID was real good for going through the boxes of videotapes and digitizing everything and uploading. But I still got a lot more to put up. But now it's back to fully busy again, so a little harder.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously you're kept very busy from your gym that you guys have, and for Boxing Works, with your first concept of it, like you say, you started in 1997. Where did you start Boxing Works at, and how did it start in that location?
Let's see, we were in Hermosa Beach originally, which is not terribly far from where we're at now in Lawndale. The gym was actually started 93 by a guy named Scott McColgan, and his concept, his idea was just a boxing gym. He started adding in other arts, other sports. So pretty early on, like around 93, they had boxing in there. They had Brazilian jiu-jitsu in there. Guys doing like a kickboxing thing, which is totally commonplace now amongst like MMA schools and such. But this was kind of, I don't know, really early on. I mean, first UFC was 93. So this was
new,
pretty unheard of at the time. And even when basically he wanted out of the business. He was a restaurant guy, 2 restaurants, a couple kids, a third kid on the way. The gym was the least lucrative of his businesses. He wanted out of it, and we were looking to do something other than what I was doing at the time, working management team in a sporting goods store, which was fine, but I just wanted to do something else. But even 97, it was like kind of unheard of to have that many, the mixture of the arts. At that point, UFC was, for example, just starting to, like, mixed martial arts was starting to become a thing, or before it was still like style versus style.
Yeah.
So, having a place that had all those things available was kind of uncommon. It was kind of a cool time. I'm not horrifically into MMA now, especially. But at the time, it was really cool because since we were sort of a neutral place, it seems like you had like jiu-jitsu based places and fighters. And we were kind of a neutral spot. We didn't have any like fighters from any of those competitions getting out of the gym. So people would come to the gym to practice with each other where they couldn't where that was frowned upon at the time. The jiu-jitsu guys couldn't train with the wrestling and striking guys and this and that, the other thing. So we were kind of a little neutral grounds, if you
nice. And for that, like you're hitting on, not really a big fan of mixed martial arts. Me either. Like it's one of those things. Just you see, I have people that obviously you deal with it all the time too. People come in, they ask about it. It's like, yeah, I know who that is, but did I see their last fight? No. Like,
right.
And for me, I'm just like, oh shit, maybe I should keep up more on it. But kind of going into like stuff now, we'll get into it in a bit. But like one championship, a little bit easier to follow because they have Muay Thai on the card. So it's like, okay, I'll watch this fight. I know who they are. But for going through that era of martial arts where it started mixing, like you were saying, it was kind of frowned upon to be going to another school to like get this mutual ground where jiu-jitsu can meet wrestling and boxing and like kickboxing and Muay Thai. What do you think were like the biggest, like besides having the actual place, and do you think it was like those original UFCs that was kind of the catalyst for people to kind of start doing that at the time, especially being in like you're in a hub of like martial arts at the time too?
You mean like were those like early UFCs like the catalyst for the mixing of things? I think so. I think for that sport, they quickly found out that like style versus style wasn't the best approach when they had to have like a very diverse rule set.
Yeah.
So I think they quickly discovered that there's for what am I trying to say? I'm tongue tied. First thing in the morning. But they need to have that mixture of this and that and the other thing to make a complete, a complete product or something that's going to be successful with the rule set they're operating under.
So, with that, is that when you started going full time into Boxing Works? Once you bought the business, is that what happened?
Yeah. Bought the business in '97, and really the concept originally was going to be more of a fitness oriented place. Taibo had really broken big at that time.
Oh God!
And it was huge.
I remember that.
It's kind of funny. But I was about to say blame, and not blame. Kind of, give a certain amount of credit to both Taibo, cardio kickboxing, and to a degree, mixed martial arts for, if not funneling people directly into Muay Thai, being an entry point they may not otherwise
have even looked at it, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, although, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of it's funny. It's not that I'm not a fan of the sport of MMA. It's more like, oh God, I'm about to say this. It's like I'm not a fan of the fans.
Yeah. I mean, that's understandable.
There's culturally, it's quite different from your average Muay Thai show. It's just a different vibe, and I respect the skills. But I don't want to be at a bar or anything like that UFC is going on,
So what you're saying is I'm not going to see you hanging out over at Buffalo Wild Wings watching the latest UFC fight. So, color me surprised.
I would do it to be with if they were friends. Wanted to do that, and I do it to be with my friends, but I'd definitely be.
You're not going to be organizing it.
Yeah. I have friends that they'll get fights. They'll get the fights, and we'll go over to their place. And, some of the bigger pay-per-view, that's still a thing. I guess you have to pay for them all now. We'll go over there, but that's a personal sort of setting, and that's fine and dandy.
So going on to professional settings, stuff like that too, with Boxing Works, because you guys move. How many times have you moved locations now?
Twice. Hermosa to Torrance, from Torrance to Lawndale, but it's all within a 4 mile.
It's pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super close. So we've been lucky with that.
So for your involvement and stuff like that too in Muay Thai, obviously you were part of TBA under Ajahn Chai. So,
yes, sir.
How did that end up coming about?
That was really kind of my first exposure in general. I think the vast majority of Thai boxing you were going to find in the States in the early 90s probably had some sort of imprint from Ajahn Chai on it. I think, your coasts, definitely LA, definitely Southern California area. You had a lot of access with Muay Thai Academy. And then the groups that would splinter off of that. So there's definitely along the coast, and some of the East Coast as well. But in the middle of the country, there was a lot less
exposure of
a lot less
accessibility. Yeah,
exactly. There's obviously in Hollywood, North Hollywood, there's a major Thai population. So LA area has kind of been blessed with having a variety of teachers, and the same large cities on the East Coast.
Yeah, the same thing.
More Thai population, but middle of the country, a little harder. So anyway, probably most of your influence was going to be TBA, Ajahn Chai influence, and then just over time things have mixed and mingled, and as they kind of do, and such. But yeah, that was my first real uh, exposure, real taste of anything related to Thai boxing.
Mm. Well, yeah, he was doing these tours around the U.S. to, like, karate studios and taekwondo places, and like these other Jeet Kune Do places that popped
Yeah,
up, and really exposing other martial artists to like what Muay Thai was. I meet a lot of older martial artists that were like, hey, like back then it was like, he was the fucking man, because there wasn't a lot of exposure for it, and he did a
exactly.
really good job of like, hey, this is what Muay Thai is. This is why you should train it, and this is why you need to know it. And kind of going in and going through that with tournaments and stuff like that too, into a TBA tournament out in Iowa.
Yeah.
Which is like, obviously, I think it's one of the biggest Muay Thai tournaments in the world, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they had the last couple of years close to or over 1,000 competitors over the course of a weekend, basically. So it's a lot of people, man.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
yeah, I just worked as an official one time, and
Oh yeah, I remember that.
man, it was like I just tell them like just throw me food, like throw it at me. Like that was definitely an endurance contest, man.
Yeah.
So like for the competitors too, and the coaches, people who have, if you have more than three people competing, like even those three is a lot, because of keeping track of everything in the long days, and just like because it's like 4 days, and that's not including weigh-in like the day before so it's actually like 5 days. It's essentially you're burning a whole week in Muay Thai for that time, and getting the exposure and the experience. How important do you think it is for somebody to get that tournament experience as an amateur? Do you think that's been integral to kind of your team's growth?
I think so, definitely for us. It's a good way to get, provided you keep winning, obviously. It's a good way to get a good experience over, like I said, the course of a few days, several fights. You can come away with 4 fights. So that's nice, in the span of a weekend. There's certain pressures that come with it that make the whole process difficult. And I think that's useful for an athlete, to deal with those kind of things. And and then now that that event has grown, and you get people from all over, from all over the entire country, and people come sometimes from Canada and such as well. It gives you opportunity for matchups that might not normally happen just because of finances and logistical constraints. Like we ended up fighting people from the East Coast, fighting people from Canada. They were kind of always on the radar, but just getting those fights to happen were difficult because, it's expensive for a promoter on one coast to bring somebody from the other coast out as amateurs. But, middle ground, everybody's flying in on their own dime. It creates some good matchups that we might not otherwise see. So,
yeah. And
very helpful.
And do you feel like, especially those people, like you're saying, the amateur fighters, they're kind of on the radar. You don't really get to face them as an amateur before. And you have these tournaments where you do get to face them. And for me, I see that as well as like, it's a really good opportunity, especially somebody who's trying to fight professionally.
Absolutely.
Because you're gonna, if you see those people on your radar and they've been on there for a while, you're probably gonna meet them as a professional too, where you guys are getting paid. So it's do you think that's like a important aspect for those tournaments as well, to face those people early on?
Yeah, I mean, just the opportunity for it to happen at any point, I think is huge. It is helpful for getting experience, getting that experience, and I'm cool with fighting people multiple times. Some people have I've been there, done that kind of vibe. For me, it's like, I love the way how it happens in Thailand on the Thais do it, how they'll have these series of fights over years. Yeah, a trilogy or more.
Yeah.
Like Jongsenan Sakmonkon fought like 7 times, something like that.
Yeah.
and it's cool because you get to see, just how everybody evolves over time, how they can deal with each other, how, maybe fighting at slightly different weights.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
It changes the outcome or changes the
changes the
performance of the
outcome.
fights.
Yeah, different points in their career as they learn and progress and evolve, and so that kind of thing is great as far as I'm concerned.
Mm. Yeah, and that's kind of like where I think a lot of the evolution in like Muay Thai here in the U.S. as well has helped just the Americans in general evolve. For you were doing like the IFMA tournaments back in the day too, right?
Yeah, pretty recently. That's been huge. That was also quite helpful with, I think it's useful for anybody because again, now you're getting international exposure that you might not have normally had that opportunity or access to, and it's all about facing as many different people as you can in different looks and different styles. It's all Muay Thai under that umbrella, but people from Russia fight differently from the people in Thailand and Finland and the French and the Americans. So you get just these slightly different flavors of it, and getting to see those things is it's huge. It's helpful. Depending on what you want. I mean, obviously, depending on what you want to do with your career. If grassroots local shows that you're undefeated on is your Super Bowl, then by all means go for it. But if you really want to have like a, to me, like a meaningful career that goes into the pro ranks, it's about as much experience as you can, and then how it all looks at the end. Not just hold on to that zero or what have you.
Yeah.
Being able to risk things and grow from that. And then, it's about who you fought at the end versus, like I said, I'm ranting about people holding on to their zero or whatever. No, because we just had recently, stuff happen. It happens.
I think I know what you're talking about, where people they pulling out fights like last minute and stuff like that.
Well, okay, pullouts, or like you get, people like promoters will ask, "Hey, do you have anybody? We had a dropout. Do you have anybody that can fill in?" I go, "Yeah, I got a guy or I got a girl that can fill in." And then the promoter comes back a little bit later, they're like, "Yeah, they don't want to fight you." And I'm like,
"Why?"
Exactly.
Yeah, I've felt that a couple times before, where it's like, "Hey, we have this opportunity, and it's on 5 days' notice." It's like, "Yeah, we'll step in, let's do it." And then they're like, "Oh, they don't want to fight you." So, what? Did they just like? Why are we doing this then?
Exactly.
So
and I'm assuming that's exact same situation, amateur level stuff. Yes.
That one was pro. Pro
stuff.
Well,
that's even.
You see it pro and amateur. You see obviously more an amateur, but like this is like this happened pro, and it was with a woman too.
That's bad too.
Yeah, it's like you don't get a lot of opportunities for, especially like pro fights, and then pro women fights.
Yeah, that's the opportunities, the chances. Female athletes have a lot less of a pool to work with. So at any point,
and I've seen you guys take the approach of just move on, go to the next thing, no attention, because there's no point in wasting the time on it. Yeah,
you're bummed that you're not able to do it, but I'm not going to go and
blast
trash somebody. It's not necessary. It's not silly. It's it doesn't get us anywhere.
Yeah. What do you think about people who are like repeat offenders of that, like last minute pullout? Like in that sense, from like a sanction, like if you were working with a sanctioning body, right, and controlling that, and then you saw somebody repeatedly pulling out last minute like that.
Mm-hmm.
So outside of coaching, what do you think the solution is for that, like an amateur level? Or do you have an idea? Because this is stuff I think about all the time. Like how, like you see amateur mixed martial arts, they have like a bout agreement.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't have any like standing, but it's like, hey, you still signed it and you had your name on it.
Yeah, like an honor system, if you will.
Yeah.
I think, but that'd be nice. I don't know if how much weight it would hold, if anything at all. But I think that could be a useful step for amateur Muay Thai. If someone's like a repeat offender, I mean, okay, give you the benefit of the doubt. It's like they can figure out what's going on. Is there some sort of issue, some sort of problem? Like the guy's trying to cut too much weight, something like that. It's like I'm trying to be understanding versus just flat out like trying to shame somebody on it. Mm-hmm. So figure out like is there a what's the real root of the problem? Is it something like that? Is there a way to encourage that person to not try to mimic what you see on The Ultimate Fighter and try to cut 30 pounds for a no pay 3-round
6-minute fight
amateur fight? You know what I mean? Or also, if there is a way to kind of hold people accountable, I mean, if it's a reoccurring thing, because it happens, things like that happen to everybody. People get sick, people get injured, life happens. I understand that. But yeah, if it's a person that's doing that on the regular, it's like I think if there was some way to regulate that, to find out. First of all, to try to find out why, and then, some method to hold people accountable. I don't want to be really insulting or anything like that.
No.
But, things like this, they're not, it's just not for every single person, and that's fine. Kind of joke around and say everybody wants to be on the poster, but on the fight poster, but not everybody wants to actually fight. And yeah, that's true to a degree, but it's like I'm not trying to shame anybody for that. But it's also wasteful for many people.
Oh yeah,
promoter, the person,
the fighter, the
promoter,
the
exactly,
team, and their own team too.
And you branch off of that.
Yeah,
people's family, all these other elements that kind of suffer from the commitment you have to to participate in things like this. There's a disrespect to do that constantly,
especially if it's like you said, repeatedly and stuff
offended,
like that too. And like you said, it can be a symptom of like a problem. Is it a weight cut issue? Is there a personal stuff going on? Like, that's not here nor there, but it just in general, kind of going into some of the weight stuff too. You obviously have athletes that are in one championship with hydration testing and stuff like that too. So how do you feel like, we're seeing it today, like I'm hearing that Rodtang had to pull out from one because of some hydration testing stuff too. Like right. I'm hearing some rumors about it. How has it been for you as a coach, dealing with that aspect as well? Have you guys had any issues with it? Has it been relatively easy for your team? Tell me a little bit more about that for you guys.
Sure. They one championship does is they have, as you said, not only weigh in, but they check your hydration, make sure you're not coming in there extremely dehydrated. For us, it's been pretty easy. I guess their whole concept, their whole idea is they're trying to eliminate weight cutting, so you're fighting close to your natural weight. And for Janet, for example, that's just about 100% true. She doesn't walk around much heavier than the weight class that she fights in. It's like 115 pounds. And if she cracks 120 at any point, it's pretty uncommon. So for her, it's almost a matter of like skipping a meal and
and she's fine.
Comes in fine, you know. With Jackie hasn't had any issues either with either weight or hydration, and you know they're both very disciplined with with their diet and everything. You know, have a nutritionist that helps them kind of, like so Janet, it's a matter of like missing a meal and she's good to go. Jackie has to be a little more regimented. Yeah, thank you. We're regimented with her diet and lifestyle. 6 weeks out or what have you. But same thing. She's been able just to perfectly
just slide right in there, no problems.
Yeah. But even that's us. That's our method, our experience. But as you're seeing, people are still trying to game the system in some regards, or fighting, still just a little too light for one's concept of not cutting any weight. How they're doing it, I've only heard rumors. I'd like to know the method. just for reference.
To know. Yeah.
Just to know. Yeah. It's interesting there,
What are the rumors you're hearing? I'm curious about this because like I'm like of course there's ways for people to game this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But like there's always been the methods that you've seen. Like prominent one was like Daniel Cormier in UFC where he put his hand on the towel and stuff like that.
Right.
But for hydration testing and stuff, what are some of the rumors if you don't mind sharing?
What I've heard is that like folks will cut under a bit enough and then drink up to the number they need to be. So the weight will be fine, and then
obviously it looks like they're hydrated.
It looks like they're hydrated, hydrated enough. There's obviously a balancing act in that, and figuring out exactly, what you can do. And obviously you go too far under, if you're too depleted, you're still going to be, bad anyway. But that's
kind of stuff you're hearing
kind
about.
Kind of the gist of it. Yeah.
That makes sense. I didn't think about it that way, but I guess when it comes down to money and stuff like that, people always try to find a way to game it a little bit more.
Every advantage,
Yeah. And that's something, for fighting in one, obviously during shutdowns, you guys were going over to, Singapore?
Singapore,
Yeah, Singapore. So, your fighter Janet Todd and Jackie Buntan, both of them going over there and fighting during COVID. How was that whole process? Because obviously you guys had to you're face palming right now for those that aren't watching the video. But man, like I saw that and I'm like, holy shit, that must suck.
I'm face palming. First of all, just to be able to get out and stay active in any capacity, any amount of active, to have opportunities to fight during that was fantastic. So a lot of people lost a lot of time. We lost, some time as well. So that was great. And then do their very best to take care of everybody. And they're always gracious, and the whole staff there is fantastic. Yeah. However, the process, the things we had to do were, it could be tedious. Let's put it that way. Like there's a lot of testing. Like test before we fly, understandable. Upon arrival, then when we get to the hotel, you're put away, quarantined in your room till the test results come out, and then provided you're negative, you basically have like an hour that you can block off to train, and you were escorted to and from training in the hotel,
Mm.
and then you could get like a 30-minute pool time. You could hang out at the pool or whatever.
Mm.
And those were all just segmented, blocked out, so you wouldn't be around anybody else. The rest of the day, I guess that's 22 and a half hours. You were in your room.
Oh, and
Yep.
And how many days before the event would you be doing this?
About a week.
A week. So a week.
Yeah.
And
a little under. Like Janet always wants to get there a day or so earlier than what they want. What they usually offer us. So her trip, Jackie's, they get us there 5 days, 6 days. That usually. No, actually, that's not true. She likes to get there a little earlier as well. Just that extra day or so to acclimatize to the time zone.
Yeah, deal with jet lag.
So about a week basically.
Yeah, because that was really impressive for like all combative athletes that were doing that at the time. For us back home when we're watching this stuff, we're just like, oh shit! Like, not only like are you fighting high level, but then you add in that dynamic into it, and the I guess the mental fatigue that puts on you too.
Yeah,
and not even just as the fighter, but as the coach and stuff as well. Like the whole team that's there and dealing with that, and then you have your business back home. You guys had just moved into your new location too, right?
Yeah, at the start of we're right at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. So, so new place and all the stresses that come with that, and then and then shutting down. For that whole process that we're talking about that we had to go through, for everything that I had to go through, and my athletes had to go through, still didn't compare to the Australian athletes, for example. They would have to go back to Australia, and then it was like a 2-week quarantine before they could go home. So they were basically, the better part of a month, like locked in a hotel room just to get a fight. So, so the Aussies, and I think a couple other places as well.
Yeah,
their process was much worse. At least here, at least with us, once we got home, we were
good,
home free.
Yeah,
what was free at the time?
Yeah, and I want to kind of touch on that here in a second. But the Australians, I think Canada had pretty strict re-entry stuff too. I remember like TBA in 2021. It was like I had some friends that came down, competed from Canada, and they're like, we're just making it a trip because when we go back, we're stuck in a hotel room for 2 weeks. But they had a way of getting around it. They were saying that they would drive over the border and like, I'm going to quarantine. They'd have some pick them up, and then they would just be home free. But Australia, you're on an island, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So you're landlocked by the ocean, and they had very strict, obviously protocols. And for people to even get a flight in and out of it was really hard because they were like overbooked and stuff too. So shout out to all the Aussies who were making that shit.
Yeah, they were. They're historically a hardy, tough, gritty bunch. Anyhow, that's just one more. I don't know what you would call it, notch on the belt. There,
exactly.
One more thing that just shows their spirit. So it's a great bunch of people.
Kind of touch on some of the stuff. So obviously, I've seen a lot of your stuff. You gave me a pin that had the Crimson Skull on it. So tell me a little bit about your involvement in like the punk world and stuff like that too.
It was just like a teenage thing. I never grew out of, I guess. In some regards, after my first big geek out thing was martial arts. That was like let me see, about 1984 or something like that. First like junior high school. I did that, for about 2.5 years. Then once I got into high school, the skateboarding and punk rock bug kind of got me, and this was mid 80s. So that was that time period. And then when I got out of school, just the martial arts thing caught my ear again. But the music and things you like stick with you. Well, for some people, for me it did. So just as years went by, and
Still into it, man. I dig it.
Yeah, I still, I don't. Well, I haven't gone to any shows in quite some time since the Misfits reunion shows. Had to go to one of those, just to say I did, and it's so funny and interesting in a way, seeing how, like, I don't know how to put this. They have the exposure and such that they do now. 30 years ago, it's like they're like Kiss now.
Yeah.
The logo's on fucking everything. It's everywhere. It's like you got socks and underwear and like there's toys and everything. So they've become, that band's become like
it's pop culture,
a juggernaut of pop culture, marketing juggernaut. But anyway, so I just decided I was going to do a little pin, and instead of like theme club, it was like fisticuffs. I was like, what can I put here? Fight club? I'm like, yeah, you can fight club. It's like fisticuffs. There's a good word.
Yeah.
And you guys haven't seen what I'm talking about. It's like the Little Misfits Crimson Ghost, Fiend Club button, and we gave him a black eye and a bloody nose.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'd done two of them. I did one for the gym, but then I just went ahead and I finally got comfortable with like putting my name on things, So I have like a Popejoy Muay Thai fisticuffs club, little buttons I give out and stuff.
Yeah.
And that kind of came from, that whole punk rock / skateboarding culture where, you could write a band that you liked, oh man, I love you guys, saw you, and
put on my jacket.
Yeah, saw you up in Chicago or whatever, and here's $1, and you'd get a letter back from the singer, the guitar player, and thanks man, thanks for your support. Here's some stickers and buttons and stuff. So it was kind of cool that you kind of had access, relatively speaking, to to your musical heroes or whatever, where because it was a smaller community, as
yeah.
So that's, I guess, just a little bit of the influence. Like, I like making stickers and buttons and stuff now and giving them out to people. So,
well, I find it very interesting that there's actually a lot of people who are involved in Muay Thai that come from this alternative culture growing up, myself included. And it's funny to see it more and more. Like Victor over at Thai Boxing Institute did like a Jones influence like style one. He did one. You see like the inspiration from like the Descendants and stuff like that too. And there is really popular. Yeah. And I've seen some Black Flag influence stuff too from Muay Thai.
I did buttons too a long time ago. With, instead of the bars, they were boxing gloves. And I've seen somebody have a shirt that has like heavy bags,
Yeah.
So, Mark Beecher did a Ramones thing. What else do I see?
I saw someone do one that was it was inspired from the Cro-Mags, the Sign of the Times. That's but they had like it had like the same font on the bottom and stuff like that too. And instead of the I can't remember what it was, but I think it was just but it was like a similar. They had basically a similar structure, but I think it was just a person with a black and white, like old school silkscreen press.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
Steel did a Joy Division one, like Steel MMA. Carl Gephardt.
Oh no way!
Yeah. I did like the
waves.
Yeah, the waves. Yeah, he did. They did something like that, and what else? Obviously Adam. I drawn a blank on the name of his company, but he does like his combination of like traditional tattoo / punk rock themed.
Adam Wagner. Yeah, he has the out of step flash tattoo. Yeah.
Yes, out of step.
Yeah, out of step. Yeah, he did some. He gave us some artwork over here at our academy here in Santa Barbara too. Cool, dude. And I wonder how much of, so like these people and such as yourself, like that DIY kind of attitude of getting shit done and doing it. Like, I wonder how that, like, do you think that affected you as a coach? Like, hey, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to do this work, and going through that whole transition from buying a gym, working into teaching full time. Now you're building literal world-class athletes at your gym. Do you feel like that had any influence towards that?
I would say so. I mean, how else are you going to get things done?
Mm-hmm.
How else are you going to like develop people how you want to develop them? How else are you going to, no one's going to hand you your own place.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That'd be nice. Cool. I would appreciate it. Yeah, I think so. I think that definitely contributed. But it was like finding the secret ingredients of something you love doing, and the kind of people you want to be around, and that was really a catalyst, because I don't think I could have like that same sort of drive, if I kept on and selling tennis shoes or whatever. I don't think it would have been the same. I don't think I would have had the drive to like, get my own franchise or whatever. I think it would have been a different path. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Everybody does what they have to do to get going. But I definitely think it's a perfect storm of, early influences, and like, I'm stubborn and I like the things I like, and I tend to like them for a long time. If I really, really like something. And like, I think not always, but I've always really tried as much as possible to kind of just make my hobbies take over everything.
Yeah.
So like, say, it's like on a skateboard. It's like, okay, we're in a skateboard shop, and it was it's 24/7. It was just never off. And it's kind of the same with Thai boxing, Muay Thai. It's like, it touches everything, and everything touches it, and wouldn't have it any other way, really.
It becomes a whole lifestyle of what you're doing, right?
Yep.
And I think that's actually like really important for people to kind of like outsider looking into Muay Thai, maybe to listen to this or watching on YouTube, is, obviously there's not a lot of money in, like, it's not like boxing. You're not getting a fat commission check off your pro fighters, right? Boxing, obviously there's percentages, everything's, because it's older sport, there's more money.
Yeah, more established.
Yeah, so to be able to have, you have, your gym, you have, your fighters, your private lessons, you have other coaches that you've built up that want to be inside of it. Like you were saying, you worked in a skate shop. It's like you have the people that work in your Muay Thai gym, right? And it's something that they really have a passion for as well. Yeah. And you're giving them a platform to build that passion on there. And for me, I've met a couple of your coaches, but how many people do you have coaching over at Boxing Works?
I'm gonna have to like go.
Yeah.
I was thinking it's like 9 people. I could be off by a few numbers, but right around there.
9, yeah. Is that the biggest team you've had for your coaching?
I think I have more than that now. Actually, now that I think about it, now that I just did a quick little roll, I think now it's definitely the most people I've had. Started doing like splitting some of the classes into 2. Like even like what was supposed to be like a beginner level thing started morphing into something else. So we started splitting that up. So we've got like, multiple coaches, not in every class, but in a lot of the classes. So that didn't necessarily double the amount, but it definitely increased the amount. So yeah, I think we're at the high. I know we're at the highest amount of coaches, that we've ever had since we started.
Yeah. And the people who are coaching for you, are they most of them brought up from within Boxing Works, or the people that have come from other places, or
A good percentage, yeah. I've got a few, there's a few others now that have came, that have came in with other experience, and they just fit in really well. But the majority are kind of homegrown.
Yeah, bringing in the people from outside can always kind of be like a gamble, right? It's like they could be a great player on one team, but you come onto your team, they're not a good fit, right?
Yeah.
What's like for people that have come up within Boxing Works, has there been any things that you look back on and they had like some similarities to each other that have like character traits or coaching or what some like leadership things that you saw like character traits in them that are very similar that you've seen come up through it in the past in like your many years of experience?
Like the ability to communicate and convey information is obviously huge. You can have people that are the best athlete, but maybe they're not the best communicator. Some communication skills, empathy, sometimes sympathy, patience, understanding. I don't try to make like a negative influence or a negative, try to break people down to bring them up. It's like I want like a place that people feel inspired, not like you don't want to go. You've been in places where you see people that had a hard grinding day at work and things were tough, and you want to go and kind of have a good time, feel good about things. Then you have like instructors that are assholes or whatever. I never got that.
I hear you. And the thing is, there's a lot of that too.
Yeah,
there's a lot of it. In going to the tournaments is one of those things that I think it's great for, especially students that maybe have only trained with you, right? And then they go see it and they're like, "Holy shit! I'm glad I don't train there." Right?
There's times we can like
what the hell? It's pretty wild to see all the is it different flavors, for everybody, and you're really seeing it kind of flourish in martial arts. We're seeing it in promotions and stuff like that too, for like how they decide to promote certain athletes. You see one of MMA fighters versus one, UFC MMA fighters versus Bellator fighters, like how they promote the athletes and their stories.
Different animals.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of going through here, I did have a question for you. Left kick or right kick?
Overall, in general, probably. I always put like asterisks after answers, because I think
it depends.
But left kick for sure.
Okay, and how come you say that?
Okay, we're talking like Orthodox versus Orthodox, for example.
Yeah.
Since they're I think it's most common. There's a bunch of things. Okay, kind of ties in with your lead side, your longest weapons. Okay, your jab and your teeth and your left leg. For us, like the way we teach it, they all kind of work in conjunction. Okay, like having that lead side that's closer, that gets there first. A ton of things like useful for smashing it and exerting a certain amount of control on someone that's like a heavy right puncher. So you start blasting away that arm, taking away that weapon. The angles of your body, it's more open target. You've got the whole front of the person's body versus the rear kick that you have to move a larger amount to be able to bring that in to attack. And then it's also exposing you towards their rear, power side. Those are, I think are big reasons.
Like key points of it.
Your rear leg
say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Your rear leg, it's easy. If you're right-handed, your rear leg, it feels strong from the very beginning, probably, even if, your technique isn't perfect. It's the side in favor, but it's, it's more exploitable, in my opinion, for someone that's smarter and that knows how to fight and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, the whole world changes if it's unmatched stances, if it's southpaw versus orthodox. I'm orthodox. My left leg, especially body kick, becomes almost useless. So now it's more right leg. Again, now all those same principles. It's open side and it's more exposure for the body. And if it's southpaw versus southpaw, now it's like your right leg. It's But never say never. There's always exceptions. There's always things you can do.
Yes. Be good at everything, but left kick.
Yeah, be good at everything, but you kind of understand how things really play. And I know, there's always going to be when we come into America, the barbershop scene when they're all debating boxers and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like,
yes, of course.
167 years old when he fought Rackmaster. It's always going to be the guy that's going to go, yeah, well, what about so-and-so? What about so-and-so? I'm like, I'm not saying there's not, exceptions and not people that have made a career off of doing the complete opposite of what I just said. Again, my word's not gospel here, but, systematically, there's a certain way to go about doing things that tends to work quite well. That surprisingly, a lot of people still in this day and age aren't doing it.
Yeah.
So it's surprising.
Yeah, that's like you said. It goes into people like with Muay Thai growing here in the U.S. and stuff like that too. For how it's developing, people are learning more and more about it through stuff, like from watching your fighters, from watching other people who kind of understand this principle you're talking about too, and having that knowledge of it. And that's one of the reasons I asked this question too, because everybody's got their different perception on it, whether it be like a newer student, somebody's obviously been doing this for decades. And so I appreciate you sharing that insight on it too, man, because it's just one of those things, like people, they go, why would I do that rather than my dominant leg? It's like, okay, well, there's a lot of different ways to, I guess to skin a cat, we would say.
Yeah.
But, and with that too, if you were going to go back and tell yourself when you first got into Muay Thai, if you can give yourself one bit of advice, what would it be?
Oh man, one. I have to stop at one.
You can give a couple, but I just said if you have one or two or three, whatever you want, man.
Yeah, develop like that whole thing I talked about. Like, that was over time, almost probably later in fight career or what have you. But yeah, really develop that lead side, have that lead side working in conjunction. Because a lot of people, you imagine like 20 years ago, you imagine things like implementing that sort of thing now and giving people issues, let alone going back further and further and further. So develop that. That would have been something I probably would have done. Fight more often, that would have been probably useful for me as well.
And if you're going to give, like, what's a bit of advice maybe for somebody who's absolutely new, who's thinking about getting into Muay Thai for various reasons. You don't know the reason, but they're kind of just looking at it from the outside. Maybe they're watching this podcast or listening to it and been thinking about starting Muay Thai for a while. What would be your piece of advice for them?
Give it a try. Go for it. You know, it's physically challenging. It's mentally challenging. It's a road that like, if you really look at things, can go on forever and ever and ever. Like there's always something new to get out of it. And there's always ways to make what you're doing better. So it's like a never ending thing if you can really look at it under a microscope. And, there's obviously, experiences vary and places vary, but, for the most part, it's some of the best people I've ever met in my life that have been, involved in this activity.
Yeah.
So there's a community there for you. And that's nice. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Give it a go. The worst thing can happen. You burn a few calories, then you look for something else that fits you better.
Yeah. Maybe you learn a few things that you can take with you, right?
Something you can take with you, yeah.
Yeah, no one can ever take it from you, too. That's what's
it's always going to be here.
Yeah. Kind of going through also, if people wanted to train with you guys, how do they find your gym? Is there a way for people to reach out to you guys?
The website's boxingworksofficial.com. Instagram, I think, what is it? I haven't looked in it.
Let me see. I can look it up for you. I have Instagram open. Just at Boxing Works. I'll make sure to put a link.
Yeah. There we go.
I'll put a link in the show notes and stuff too for you.
All right.
Yeah.
And going like via the web form or calling is your best bet for getting in touch. Usually like whoever's kind of handling the Instagram for me they're not the front desk people. So questions like that will have to get bounced around. So calling in is your best option.
Got it. Okay. I'll make sure to put the link in the show notes for you guys, website and everything like that too. In kind of going into, I have one last question for you. Do you still have the Top King pads for sale by chance?
No, I haven't had them for a long time.
Yeah, I remember you had a storage unit of it, and you were selling that because Songkran's coming up on Sunday. Are you gonna be there?
Yeah, we did. We've done like shops at the Songkran in the past, but okay, we got in really early with not a lot of companies, with a few companies.
Yeah.
Like my wife and sister-in-law, who own the gym. We all own the gym together. They're tied. And, that like help. I mean, equipment's so easy to get now. It used to be, that's not the case. Years back, they weren't the first people that brought twins to the States, but they were early on. So, while twins was still small, for example, we sold that stuff, and then the companies kind of grow to a certain point and they become harder to deal with if you're not doing as much business with them. They're less interested in you. So we got out of selling twins, and then a little bit after that, one of the brothers broke off and started Top King. So we were getting Top King stuff pretty early on in the States, and then they started getting their growing pains as well, and started getting difficult to receive from them. So we stop buying from them because it became a pain in the butt. But such is life.
It is what it is. But man, I gotta say, I bought a pair of pads from you. I think it was in 2011 or 2012, and they're beat to shit, but they're still my favorite pads.
Which one's the Top King ones?
Top King, yeah. It's the
stuff they made like around that time, it's pretty bulletproof. Like we have some focus mitts at the gym that we put in, and like they look hardly used at all. And it's in the gym pile, it's in the community pile. So they've got used for same thing 12 years, nearly daily, and still holding up. So I think they figured out that we can't make our stuff this reliable. and stay in business.
Yeah, because no one's gonna keep buying stuff, right?
Yeah, don't need to. That Thai bad's for 10, 12 years. Yeah. So
Yeah. They said
I think they figured that out.
That makes sense from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
As
I
from
mean,
like
you don't want to dissolve right away, but a 10-year lifespan on something's probably too much if you want repeat business.
repeat customer.
Yeah.
It's like what are they gonna do? Sell you a Top King shirt? Like it's like no, I want pads. I want heavy bag. I want gloves. I want shin guards and stuff like that too. That makes sense. And but still, it's like I guess it's like some of the older. You talked about barbershop stuff. It's like they get older equipment that they're like shit. They don't make these like shears like they used to.
Right. Yeah.
Or they do, but yet now it's like it costs like 5 times as much, so that way they can stay in business. It's really cool to see. Really appreciate your time, man.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on today. You want to give a shout out to anybody?
Do I want to give shouts out, man? You know how it goes. If you don't include everybody, then somebody gets butthurt.
Well, for those people, I'll say this: it's hard to remember everybody. I do know what you mean.
No, but I like I said, I won't get terribly specific. But okay, I'll do one thing. Since we're talking about equipment, I do have to give a little shout out to the guys at Fight Style. They keep me in apparel and equipment that's rock solid, and I'm really liking their gear. And Andrew from that company has been very generous to the whole team. So shout out to them for hooking us up. And then as far as everything else goes, family for putting up with a glorified hobby for all these years. And wife and daughter, they put up with a lot. They have a lot to deal with, me keeping strange hours and such. And without them, it's be like a really lonely sort of place.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. You have a good rest of your day.
You do the same. I'll see you soon.